Yeah, I was gonna say, we got 4 Torah scrolls we can count too.
Hi, Alan.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Come on, dude, you're holding us up. The throng's here, you know? More than we expected for Labor Day weekend. So it's good. So, Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi Kline.
That was too formal, but thank you.
You're welcome.
We are in the midst of the Holy Day season. Slichot was last week. Normally, it is the end of Shabbat right before Rosh Hashanah, but given some timing, sometimes it has to be a week early. And so we have this extra Shabbat as we get to prepare to celebrate the New Year and then to prepare ourselves. And I want to just take just a brief moment to remind us that even while we're going to spend the 10 days of the holiday asking to be inscribed and to make it into the new year, the moment we hit Rosh Hashanah, we are in the new year. And none of us know how many days we have, but please remember to make sure that everyone is precious and that every time that we have an opportunity to engage with another person, that we celebrate the fact that we're here on that day. And so Rosh Hashanah is the beginning of something brand new, and it's ours to make of it what it will be. So make sure the holiday is joyous and that we get to celebrate each other. We're going to be reading tonight from Mishkan Tefillah. It's the blue book that's in front of you. And for all who are watching, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
And so we are lighting candles on page, and Kiddush on 120 and 123. So Cantor, on behalf of everyone, if you will take care of that.
I want to point out that if you look hard enough, you can usually find things. And I found all the votives today. So we were able to use all our silver, which has been polished lovingly. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Continue with Kiddush. Page 123. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu Zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit Ki hu yom tehillah l'mikra'e kodesh Zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim Ki banu v'acharta Ve'otanu kidashta Mikol ha'amim V'shavat kodshecha Be'ahava uvratzon Hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat Amen. L'chaim.
L'chaim. We are going to continue on page 146. We ask you to rise for Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Please read with me at the top of 31. Praise to you.
It's not 31.
I'm sorry, 149. I'm reading the abridged book. 149. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv ha'ravim. Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. We continue in praising God and appreciating the blessings in our lives with Shema. 152.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Please be seated. Page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי דיתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Page 159. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect. The song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come. The song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace.
מי כמוך, באלים אדוני, מי כמוך, נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא. מי כמוך, באלים אדוני, מי כמוך, נדר בקודש. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
It happens sometimes that the liturgy comes off the page and speaks to us in real life. We just sang Micha Mocha in the Torah. We've just parted the waters and we've walked through safely. And yet we know that what happened in the last couple of weeks through the hurricanes and most recently Ida and its aftermath, the many people who there was no parting of the waters. That night, I was up very late and I'm watching the sheets of water outside and I'm thinking, this is a horrible storm. And then I woke up and read what was happening everywhere else with the flooding, and I was walking my dog and there were puddles. The things that we take for granted. And so who is like God who sees us through these disasters? And then we move right from that into asking God for the shelter of peace, for those whose homes were destroyed, for the countless homeless people that had no home and no place to go. no place to hide from the storm. And so this is when we know that prayers that we read aren't things that are. They're the calls to us to pay attention so that we can make them come true. And it's one more opportunity to demonstrate how vibrant our tradition, how practical our tradition is in making sense out of real-world life. So we don't come to read the pages so that we can then say, we've done the Jewish thing. We come and say these prayers to be mindful of the ways in which we can help them and they can help us impact the real world. So on page 161, let's read together, please, in the middle of the page. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. We celebrate this day of Shabbat, committing ourselves to treating it as a day of respite and renewal, a taste really of the world to come, as we, I hope and pray, we take care of those who are around us and those who are in need. And so with that, we'll continue into the Amidah. We're on page 164. Please rise.
Adonai sefatai tivtachu fi hagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open my lips, and my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Ha'yivor v'Hanora, Elion, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zoher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, Nevi Gula Livnei V'neihem, L'man Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Chozer Moshe Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor L'Olam Adonai, Mechei Kol atah, Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mehalkel Hayim Mechesed, Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Ve'ofei Holim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayim Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Givurot, Umida Melech, Melech Memit, Umechayef, Umatzliach Yeshua, Beneman Atal HaChayot HaKol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol, Atah Kadosh v'Shimcha Kadosh, U'Kdoshim b'chol yom yahalu chasela, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
Please be seated. Remembering all who have come before us and the legacy that we've inherited, the one that we need to improve on as we pass it down, we give thanks for the blessings that we receive and for the energy to share them anew. Page 176. Modim anachnu lach she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu le'olam va'ed. Tzor chayenu magen yishenu atahu l'dor v'dor. We acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai, our God, and the God of our ancestors forever. You're the rock of our lives, the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your care, and for your miracles that we experience every day, for the wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, and noon. O God, whose mercies never end, O compassionate one whose kindness never fails, We forever put our hope in you. Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha ucha na'el hodot. Praised is God. Your name is goodness. Certainly the blessings are worthy of our thanksgiving. And with that, let's pray for peace. Shalom Ravs on 178.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam Ki ata umelech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata umelech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. V'tov b'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam.
Lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yimeldu od milchama. Nation shall not take up sword against nation, they shall never again know war. But don't stop after beating the swords into plowshares, don't stop. Go on beating and making musical instruments out of them. Whoever wants to make war again will have to turn them into plowshares first. With that hope for peace, let's take a couple of moments privately and think about ways in which we can appreciate each other more and demonstrate that appreciation returning to the world. May the words of my heart, the meditations that come from my mouth and from every part of my being, speak blessings to you, God, and appreciation for each other.
Amen.
There's a midrash, a story about a king who would welcome groups from the communities in the kingdom every year, and the groups would go and ask the king for special dispensations, special blessings. And there's this one community that decided one year that they should really send the most important people in the community. And so the wealthiest bankers and lawyers and doctors gathered, and they went to see the king. And the king threw them out, saying, "Where's your baker? Where's your shoemaker?" And they went back shocked that the king wanted to see the baker and the shoemaker. So, being very literal, guess what they did next year? the king's, time to come see the king, and the lawyers, the doctors, the bankers brought the baker and the shoemaker. And the king smiled and said, "You don't get it. You put no thought into this entourage seeking my blessing. Blindly you obeyed. You did just what I asked, but where's your horseman?" Horseman, the people thought. "Go. Don't come back without your horseman." So they all went down to where the stables were, and they approached Chaim, the horseman, and said, "The king wants to see you." "The king wants to see me?" And they replayed for Chaim all that the king had said. And Chaim said, "You guys don't get it. If I go up there with you, then it's the baker, the shoemaker, and the horseman, just like the king asked. What about all of the rest of the people here who are caring for the horses and the carriages? And either we all go or none of us should go." There was a debate because some of them smelled, and the bankers and the lawyers and the doctors didn't want to be with the people who smelled. But they knew that they had to go back to the king with something, so they held their noses and off they went. As they got to the king looked past the wealthy people and looked to Chaim and said, "You're the horse driver?" And he says, "Yes, I'm the horseman." He said, "And these are all the people we work with?" And he says, "Yes." And so the king told the bankers and the doctors and the lawyers, "You guys go by yourself. Let me spend time with these people." And of course, the wealthy people were really upset by this. And the king had a great conversation with Chaim and all of the people. It didn't matter to the king that they smelled. Rav Moshe Alshich from the 16th century expanded a piece of Talmud that spoke to this, citing from Pesachim 50. He said, "The story of Rav Yosef, the son of Rabbi Joshua ben Levi, who fell ill and was at the brink of death when his father's prayers brought him back to life. When he came to, his father asked him, 'My son, what did you see in heaven?' And Rav Joseph replied, 'I saw an upside-down world. Those who were on top here were on the bottom there, and those who are here regarded as lowly were exalted in heaven.'" Alshich added, "The leader of or the sage is superior to the wood hewer or the water carrier only in our earthbound perspective. We see a hierarchy in roles. We place value in status, as if for some reason human beings share different dignities based on their wealth or their job titles. But when you stand before God, there's no higher, there's no lower, and what seems low here is no less lofty or less significant in God's eyes." So then we get to this week's Torah portion, and part of it we'll read again on Yom Kippur from Nitzavim, from chapter 29. "You stand upright this day, all of you, before Adonai your God, your heads, your tribes, your elders, your officers, and all the people of Israel, your little ones, your wives, your stranger that is in your camp, from the hewer of wood to the drawer of your water." We have some really skewed ideas of what is and who is important, and then we glom on to the ones we deem important to the point where we lose our sense of responsibility to ourselves and to each other. Sports idols, politicians, actors, musicians, we jump in to get that selfie with them, that picture with them, and then we parade that picture to all our friends as if this is my new best bud, the person who never knew you existed and won't think of you again as you walk away. But how many of us jump at the chance to take a picture with the janitor or with the horse driver? The musician may play at a concert for which we paid hundreds of dollars to see, and that event is over. And yet our maintenance people, our janitors, our horsemen, these are the people who make our homes secure, who every day keep our world afloat. and yet they don't get kavod because they don't have status. We don't honor them because they don't have status. So, how many of you, show of hands if you want, ever waited on an invitation? Someone invited you to an event, and you waited to see if something better came along before you accepted the invitation.
I would never do such a thing. Never, ever.
I bet at some point we've all done that. I'm guilty, okay? You know, and as if the first invitation was somehow less dignified because our personal desires were to be in that crowd rather than with this person or in that crowd. So, how many of us have lost friendships over issues that we don't agree on? Single issues, and we don't talk to people anymore. How many of us have family members that we haven't talked to in 50 years? We don't remember why, we just know that we don't like them. I mean, this is our story. And all of these may not apply to all of us, but we know that this happens. The grudges that we hold, the relationships that we sever, for no reason that we can even remember. Somehow, people are more important or less important based on how we agree or disagree. But you know, the covenant of being godly is with everyone. And where we feel to see every human as divine, we participate in the madness. Those of us, all of us, who choose to look past the people who are in the streets, to choose to look past people with mental illness because that's something we don't want to deal with, or to choose to look past the people in need or with whom we disagree, to look past their humanity. We feel justified in who we welcome and who we dispense. And yet, our Torah tells us that we're all, from the wood hewer to the sage, from the child to the adult, each of us is human, and each of us is holy. So, how do we fix this dilemma? You know, let's go back. This isn't new. This is not something that's happened in the last couple of years, 4 years or 15 years in the American world of politics or the world politics. This goes way back in time. Abraham is called and sent on a journey. God says, Lech lecha, get up and get out there and teach my ethics to the world. Paraphrasing, go and pursue changing existence into living. The Torah admonishes us that if we save a single life, it's as if we saved a world. And that's not the life that we choose, it's any life that we save, the dignity of any person who we restore, it's as if we saved the world entire. So we live in a world where people live either in prophetic destiny or live in fear and fate. We circle the wagons or seek to create something more meaningful in our lives than could have been experienced on our own. We live in one of those two places. At Sinai, Moses and God differentiated between the encampment and the congregation. And Orthodox Rabbi, the late Joseph Soloveitchik, one of the great halachic sages of the 20th century, put it in my mind best when he said, in order to explain the difference between the people of fate and the nation of destiny, it's worth taking note of the antithesis between camp, machaneh, and congregation, edah. The camp is created as a result of desire for self-defense and is nurtured by the sense of fear, the idea that we have to circle the wagons and protect ourselves. The congregation, the witnesses, is created as a result of the longing for the realization of an exalted ethical idea and is nurtured by the sentiment of love. Rav Soloveitchik was teaching us that we can't realize the greatest potential of our government, of our covenant with God and with each other, the Messianic age built on the ethical principles of righteousness and justice, if we remain tribal, if we remain close-knit and only want to be with those with whom we feel a sense of pre-made affinity, those with whom we agree. So long as we draw lines around our camp, we will never be able to fulfill our destiny of creating the Messianic age. Soloveitchik taught that unless the Jewish community begins to give higher priority to an agenda of righteousness and justice, the agenda that started with that first Jew, Abraham, who went out on that journey to bless the world, it will have confused the means and the ends and will be stuck. So Deuteronomy tells us that we must pursue justice. The prophets rail against the disparate treatment of people based on class, caste, or status. The Torah routinely tells us that we have to take care of those who are most vulnerable in our society, the widow, the orphan, and the stranger. And a lot of religious people forget all of that. And they ask me, and they say, so why are Jews so hell-bent on justice? And the only thing I can tell them is it's simple. The Torah commands us to be. And if we ignore the Torah, then who are we? We have a lot of work to do to bring people back into the sacred. The understanding that it's about everyone. This covenant wasn't made with some people. We'll read on Yom Kippur that we're standing there and the covenant with God is made with all of those who are present that day and all who are not present that day. That meant everyone who came before, everyone existent then that lives somewhere else, and everyone that comes after. And for us to decide to discount any one of them is the ultimate of blasphemies. This year, as we begin the new year, let's open our hearts and our arms. And let's remember that we're all human, and each of us is holy. Amen.
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 We are in our prayer books on page 364.
Please rise.
Susharim Rosheichem V'chinasu Pitche Olam V'yavo Melech HaKavod Mehuze Melech HaKavod Adonai Tzvaot V'hu Melech HaKavod Selah V'melech HaKavod Selah Selah Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo Leha Adonai Ha'yedura Ha'gevura Ha'tiferet V'ha'netzach V'ha'od Kichol Bashamayim Uvaretz Kichol Bashamayim Uvaretz Lecha Adonai B'malacha B'minasi Lechol Rosh Al Shlosha Devarim
Please be seated.
Al Shlosha Devarim Al Shlosha Devarim Ha'olam Ha'olam Amen. We call up Jeff Rothman to help lead us in the Torah blessings, and you can follow along on page 1537 in your commentary. Jeff, we have a really big copy for you if you want that. Okay.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hambaruch.
Baruch Adonai Ambarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Tarato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. And you're going to hold this open for me, please. Okay.
אתם ניצבים היום כולכם לפני אדוני אלוהיכם, ראשיכם שבטיכם, זקניכם ושוטריכם, כל איש ישראל, טפכם נשיכם, וגרך אשר בקרב מחניך, מחוטי ביתך, עד שואב ממך, לא ברכה בברית אדוני אלוהיך ובעלתו, אשר אדוני אלוהיך כורת עמך היום, למען הקימותך היום לא לעם, והוא יהיה לך לאלוהים כאשר דיבר לך, אשר נשבע לאבותיך, לאברהם, ליצחק וליעקב, ולא איתכם לבדכם. אנוכי כורת את הברית הזאת ואת העולה הזאת, כי את אשר ישנו פה עמנו עומד היום לפני אדוני אלוהינו, ואת אשר איננו פה עמנו היום. There you go.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Baruch hu atah Adonai.
Here you go. Here you go. Baruch atah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam, natav b'tzokenu, Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay.
You can vote for a second. Continue, and the numbers of the leaves continue to be good. And the doctors are taking care of all of you because of the years that you gave and you served. They're taking great care of her. And so if there's anything available, you know she's going to get it. And everybody here is your client. Right?
And you who have healed so many, may Lorraine be blessed with the healing you have given so many. Please rise. If I can do this.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. May I commend you, Rabbi? This is the hardest Torah in general to carry, and right now every single part of it is on the right-hand side. Very hard to lift up.
Thank you, Patrick, my trainer. And it's we take so many things for granted. We take for granted that we can do this.
Yep.
And yet we know that there are so many who are suffering. And the things that we don't think about are beyond their ability to participate, to enjoy. And so certainly we're thinking of all who are suffering from the devastation of the storms, in the fires, from the natural disasters in this world, and for the human disasters in this world. The wars, the lack of respect for human life that we impose on each other. For those who are suffering from the illnesses and injuries that separate them from enjoying life to its fullest. And for those who are exhausted in taking care of all who are suffering. Members of this congregation, Rabbi Robert Orrock, Lorraine Rothman, Jim Appio, Vicki Bernstein, Robin Fand, Tim Mish, Scott Kline, Michael Marks, Jewel Chrisman, and Marc Alexander. If there are other who we are holding in prayer, please feel free to share their names here or at home where you're watching.
Sandra Jessup.
Baruch atah Adonai rofei hacholim. May God make us instruments of healing.
Our prayer for healing can be found on page 371. Mishabeirach avodeinu mikor habracha deimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishabeirach imotenu, mikor habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Ki lekach tov natati lachem, torati al ta'azovu. Etz chaimi lama chazikim ba v'tomecha me'ushar derachecha darchei noam v'chol netivotecha shalom. Ashiveinu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Kadesh Yameinu kekedem Kadesh Yameinu kekedem.
Page 586 for Elena.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol la'tekedu la'leotzer b'reshit shehu notei shamayim v'yotzer haaretz u'moshav yekaro b'shamayim mimahal u'shchinat uzo b'govhei meromim hu Eloheinu einon v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch, V'nemar, V'haya Adonai, Lemelech al kol haaretz, Bayom hahu, Yeh Adonai echad, U'shemo echad.
Our thoughts turn to those who have left their earthly course. Their bodies have left this world. Their spirit, their legacies continue to teach us and hold us and motivate us to heal the world. Our Yortzeit list this week: Grace Arnold, Theodore Atlas, Stella Bernstein, Isaac Blonder, Marvin Finkelstein, Bernard Goldberg, Samuel Harritz, David Jones, Frida Young, Morris Kalkstein, Lillian Davis Caswinner, Edward Kieser, Lillian Kesbaum, Karen Kleinman, Leonard Kleinman, Oscar Curry, Eve Lapel, Alan Lowenstein, Milton A. Mausner, Jesse Miller, William Palmer, Joseph Salloway, Milton Stone, Louis Tiplitz, Anita Ermacher, and Michael Yagoda. Are there other annual Yortzeits being observed this week? We are acknowledging Shloshim for Nancy Horowitz and Rabbi Richard Hirsch. Zichronam livracha. May the memories that they leave to us always lead us to blessing. Kaddish is on page 598. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divrach hirute v'yamlich malchute. B'chai yechon v'yom echon. Uv'chaye d'chol Beit Yisrael. B'gala v'zman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal. Shemei d'kudsha brichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlomo Rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'bromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
Oseh shalom b'Rama, v'yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
Please be seated. You're doing announcements? Oh, that's okay.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I'm Wayne Hallard, and on behalf of the Monmouth Reformed Temple, I want to welcome you and thank you for joining us tonight. We have some announcements for this evening, but first, I don't know if any of you noticed, but when Cantor started the Torah portion tonight, she gave a little glance back. That's because 4 years ago, that was my Torah portion, this same Shabbat. So it really was something special for me tonight. Check the weekly e-blast for more information on the following events and collections. Torah study tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Our High Holy Day services will be held in person in our sanctuary as well as live stream on our website and Facebook pages. Masks are required for all services except for the people on the Bima who are fully vaccinated. Erev Rosh Hashanah service is Monday, September 6th at 7:45, and the Rosh Hashanah morning service will be at 10 a.m. on September 7th. Our family service will be at 3 o'clock, followed by Tashlik. For this year's High Holy Day collection, we are collecting hygiene and cleaning supplies, healthy snacks, nutritional supplements, and diapers for the center and other needy organizations in Asbury Park. The non-perishable usual food items are not needed at this time. Bags to fill will be distributed during the Rosh Hashanah services. Our September Tzedakah collection is supporting Family Promise. Our MRT family has been deeply involved in its mission for years, helping with all the services that help lift people out of their economic and societal struggles. Family Promise of Monmouth County is merging with local aid agency Powerhouse Lunch Break to bring greater resources to hands to help the cause. Please give generously. For the protection of our MRT family, please stay home if you feel sick or you believe you've been exposed to COVID. Our synagogue continues to engage together in meaningful ways. We would love for more people to invest in our mission of helping others and connecting as a Jewish community. We welcome your investment and gift to help us grow. For information on joining our MRT family or making a donation, please contact Jordana Steinberg in our office or visit our website, www.monmouthreformtemple.org. Rabbi and Cantor are always available as well. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Wayne.
At the risk of offering a brief commentary, I'm going to embarrass Wayne for just a moment. Okay? I hope it's okay.
It's okay.
Um,
I'm used to it.
When we talk about an engaged community, as of today, I believe the number is 38 or 39 new families have joined during COVID, joined this congregation. Our religious school has grown 20%. And one of the reasons it happens is because of people who do and demonstrate. And so Wayne not only serves as president of this congregation, but you'll see him in the garden, out there working hard. You'll see him in the choir. Many pieces of simple life. And sometimes we get people who want to sit at the head of a boardroom or on the board, and that's what they do. But to demonstrate leadership by example is, I think, one of the great things that about who we are and what happens. and I'm speaking to certainly the choir who's here, but to the choirs at home, Kol HaKavod to this Kehillah Kedosha, this holy community that does the work that we espouse. And I think I can clearly and easily speak on behalf of Cantor, as I do myself, in saying what a privilege it is to be part of this family.
I agree.
So that's a great way to welcome the new year from my perspective. So, Cantor, you've got some things to share before we
Okay.
close.
Thank you, Rabbi, and thank you for what, those nice things you said about Wayne.
You didn't mind, did you?
See, it's good to be the temple president sometime. So if you could turn to page 662 in your prayer book. Before we sing our closing song, I'd like to say a few words about it. I've been thinking about it a lot this week. Our closing prayer is Hashivenu. And Hashivenu means return us. And the us is the Jewish people, asking to be renewed, seeking renewal and cultivating resilience. These are the central concerns in Jewish thought and Jewish practice. And focusing on resilience is one way to think about how the Jewish people and the Jewish civilization has lived and created itself over and over again for thousands of years. Throughout history, Jews have experienced catastrophe, lived through shattering challenges, and destroyed communities. But these tragedies made us rethink our relationship to God and our relationship to other Jews and our relationship to the entire world and all the people around us. And again, after these catastrophes, we have transcended and we have breathed new life into the Jewish people and our Jewish civilization. And we found pathways to repair. From trauma, we've healed. And we've done so by finding ways to cultivate this healing. And we've done so by doing it together, collectively, and also individually. So not only do we sing Hashivenu, because this is the time of year when we traditionally ask for God and ourselves to get closer to one another, but this is our quest for renewal and resilience, and something we all need very much at this time. Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, Venashuva, Venashuva, Chodesh, Chodesh, Yameinu Kekedem, Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, Venashuva, Venashuva, Chodesh, Chodesh, Yameinu Kekedem. The challah is symbolic for a host of reasons. It is the basis of sustenance. Man will not live by bread alone, the Torah teaches. But if you think about where it begins as really a rough stalk. It's prickly, and you need to be careful if you're trying to glean wheat by your hands. And we're reminded in this, certainly over this last 2 years of COVID, that we've become a little prickly. And some of our tempers are on edge. And then we look at the challah and we see how that prickly stuff has been gleaned and refined into something that is beautiful, that is tasty, that is representative, because, the rabbis teach us that it's not a kosher challah unless it has 13 lumps, so it's lumpy, And as we approach the year, I think that's really an incredible reminder of the reality of what
we may be, but certainly the blessing that we can become. So, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kulam. Peace will surely come to us, to everyone, if we pay a little bit more attention about what we can be, focusing less on what we are now. So, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen ve'amen, and Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.